everyone, it's me again. So it's probably been since, I guess, New Year since I last posted the last video. I was trying to think of new video ideas that I could help you guys do some stuff. So I decided to come up with this video. This video kind of correlates with what my new job is currently at Lackland. As you can see, I'm in a different environment, something that you guys usually wouldn't see. I'm not in my room, actually. I'm up in Joint Base Lewis McChord Field, visiting a friend right now. And so I'm just hanging out with them until I get to go back to Lackland, basically. So I'm just on some leave right now, which is nice. I wanted to make this video about an SF86 for you guys. What is it? What do I need to know about it? What are my tips and tricks about it, and just stuff like that. So what an SF86 is, when you are joining, at least the Air Force, I know for sure. I'm not sure about the other branches, so I can't really speak out on any of them, but I'm sure we all do this. But in the Air Force, we call it an SF86. So the SF86 is basically like your entire life story. It's gonna be about, like, where did you work? Where did you live? What schools did you go to? Can you have people that can verify that you went to the school? Can you have people that verify that you lived here, that you worked here? Can someone verify that you're unemployed for this long? And just stuff like that. When you're joining the military and when you're, like, talking to your recruiter and getting inside the DEP program and everything, your recruiter will hand you an SF86. It won't be called an SF86 at the time. You'll probably just see, like, this giant humongous package and they're like, go fill it out, and you're like, okay, I will, and go get all this information. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this is so much information, how am I going to get all this? When we get a little bit farther into the video, it'll kind of, like, make more sense of, like, oh gosh, for some of you, how am I going to get this information, and what am I going to do for this, what am I going to do for that, and stuff like that. If you have a top secret clearance, you have to update it every 5 years. If you have a secret clearance, you have to update it every 10 years. For me, I have a secret clearance, so I have to update this every 10 years. So for me, that's a lot of years to go back on. One of my staff sergeants that actually works with me, she has been in for about 11 years, and she just had to re-update her SF86, which means she's had to go back at least 11 years since she's came into the Air Force, and that's a lot to think about. I was listening to her talk about it and, like, her updating, and she's like, oh man, who am I going to verify for this? Who am I going to verify for that? Where did I live here? I've moved around so much and all that stuff. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to, like, handle it. I was like, okay, so I'm going to start making my own SF86 right now. So if I do stay in the military and I do get to my 10-year point, I'm like, okay, I know what to do. I'm prepared for this. I know what to do. So I just really want to go over the main big highlights that I pick on for my job. My job is actually teaching BMT trainees of how to fill this out. If you go top secret with a top secret job through BMT, you'll probably see me, and I usually give briefings about this binder. I usually answer all your questions. If you have questions like, can I call my mom for this? Can I call my dad for that? Can I call my sister for this? I need this address. Can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, yeah, totally. And if you can't find something, we'll look it up together, and then we'll figure it out together. Because, guys, this is your life. I won't know anything about your life, so I hope that you have enough integrity to tell your recruiter everything, to tell me or your interviewer or whoever's interviewing you and seeing you at the time. I hope you guys have enough integrity as one of our core values of the Air Force to just tell us everything, because I won't know anything about your life unless you tell me. So starting off, if you are 20 and older, you do have to date back until your 18th birthday. I believe for 18 to 19, it's to your 17th birthday. And if you're 17, then you have to date back all the way to your 15th birthday. So I'm 21 right now, so I'll have to date all the way back to my 18th birthday. Sections 1 through 4, it's just about your info, what's your legal name, where were you born, this and that, what's your social, most stuff that you guys can figure out. For section 5, it's called other names. So did you ever use any other legal names? For my ladies, if you're married, for maybe anyone that was adopted like me, have you used any other names? So when I was adopted, I had my Chinese name, but then becoming American, I have an American name now. So I have to let them know that, hey, I have used a name from this month and this year to this month and this year. 6 and 7, I'm gonna go over, I only want to hit the really main points that like may trick you guys, or like be like, oh man, I don't know what this is about. There's gonna be a lot of sections. There's like 29 sections of this thing, and that's not even counting like 20A, 20B, 20C, like going in between like the questions and everything. So I don't want to hit on the really little stuff that I know you guys can figure out, like what's your cell phone number, what's your home number, and just stuff like that. So 6 and 7 isn't something too big to worry about, and the questions are usually self-explanatory anyways once you do receive the packet, if you do decide to join. Section 8 is your passport information. So if you have a passport that is current or expired, you must put the information down of what the legal name was on it, when it was issued, when it expired, and what the passport number is. If you have an expired, I have a lot of questions like, ma'am, I have an expired passport, however, we don't know where it is. Well, you better find out what it is, because I'm gonna need it. And like I said, guys, I work with top secret, so for me it's very crucial that I get all my information, because all the information you tell your recruiter right then and there is what's going to go on your record. You're going to have to always remember this. So if you say you did this on this month and this year, you're always going to do it on this month and this year. You can't change your story, because if you start changing your story, then people are going to get confused. You're going to get questioned like, hey, what happened? Like, what's going on? Why'd you change your story? Is there a miscommunication between me and you, between me and them? Like, what's going on? And just stuff like that. Section 9 is citizenship. Most people are born in the U.S. or on a U.S. territory or something like that. However, if you are born abroad, say if you're born on Kadena Air Base, Okinawa, or you're born on Lakenheath in the UK, you are born on a military installation in a foreign country, which means you are born abroad. So make sure you're really careful when you guys check off whichever citizenship thing that you are. Because for me, I think when I first did it, I put, oh, I'm just a US, I'm a US citizen, born to US parents in a foreign country. No, that's actually not true. I'm a naturalized citizenship. I am a US citizen, but I am naturalized because I was adopted. So I have to have my paperwork to prove that I was a US citizen. And that was one of the hardest things I think when I was going through the DEP program, because when I talked to my recruiter was like, well, can you prove that you're a US citizen? And I'm like, I have a passport. And he's like, that'll work. And I'm like, cool. And so that's how I had to do it. But I know everyone's like, oh, I have a green card, maybe I have an alien card, maybe I have a permanent resident card, or stuff like that. 10 isn't really a big thing. That's more for the people who are born in a different country, to usually non-American parents, maybe sometimes American parents. So it's about like dual citizenship, dual passports. So I've had a Chinese passport because I was adopted. I was issued one, so I would have to say, yes, I have been issued a passport other than the U.S., and I have to explain why, and like this and that, and that and this. Like I said, guys, this is such an overwhelming form and everything, but I don't want you guys to freak out about everything. I want to help you guys. So if you do decide to join the world's greatest Air Force, I want to help you guys and help you get those questions out there. Be like, what do I do for this? What do I do for that? Do you have any questions about BMT? Do you have any questions about this? I want to help you guys, because that's just how my nature is, and that's basically what my job is. I'm personnel. I'm supposed to help you guys, and I love helping you guys. I love having the job that I do now. I get to talk to trainees and I get to help them. I get to prepare them for being the next generation in the Air Force, and that to me is so rewarding because I get to see them grow up into the older weeks. Section 11 is so where you lived. Luckily, because my mom is really smart, she knows everywhere we've lived. So I had to ask her a few times. I'm like, where did we live here? When did we live when I was this old? When did we live I was this old? Can my mom's friends verify this? Can my friends verify this? I will also talk a lot about like how you can't use any duplicates, you can't have any relatives, you can't have any time gaps. Time gaps are a really big thing. At the most you can have like 1 month of a time gap, but if you have 2 months of a time gap, then that's a big no-no, especially for if you go top secret and you like and you fill out the SF86 during BMT, because you have to update it and stuff. What I tell my trainees, time gaps are basically like, oh, I went to BMT in March of 2016, so that means I stopped living at my house in February of 2016. That's fine. That's 2 and 3. If I said 3 and 3, that's okay too. However, if I said I lived, in January of 2016, but then I came to basic in March of 2016, well, then I have a 2-month time gap, and someone would question me and be like, where were you? What's going on? Where did you live? I can't have just a 2-month time gap that I don't know where you've lived. I can't have any relatives that are related to me, so now aunts, uncles, grandpas, grandmas, or anything like that. Usually I went to a neighbor's house and I was like, hey, I need you to verify this for me that I lived there. Cool, thanks. Or I asked my mom, because I would use her friends. I'd be like, Mom, can I use your friend for this and then your other friend for this to verify that we lived here? And she's like, yeah, sure. It's like, here's their information and everything, because they've known me as a little girl. I can't use any duplicates in the entire form. You cannot use any duplicates in the entire form. If I've used my best friend in this section, I can't use her in this section because I've already used her once. However, if I use my best friend in this section and I use my best friend's mom in this section, well, that's different. But if I use my best friend in 16, let's say, and use her mom in 16, I can't do that. And when I get to section 16, I'll kind of explain this too. And like I said, this is so much information, it's going to go way over your heads, and this is what I tell all the trainees. I was like, this is going to go way over your heads, it's going to seem like so much information, but you got to do it, and you got to deal with me, and like, we can power through it, I swear. As you guys can see, I have my notebook again, because this is so much information, I can't even show you guys like how much I've been trying to get my own SF86, trying to think about all the places I've lived, all the jobs I've worked again, like everything I basically have said, because I don't even remember, I feel like half of them. Also, continuing with section 11, so when I told you guys, hey, my staff sergeant who worked with me, she had to go back 11 years, well, when I thought about it, I was like, oh man, I've been to different bases as well, so I have to put down where I was living at Lackland, when I was living in Korea, when I was living at Keesler during tech school, where I was living during BMT, all the places I've lived back home in Nebraska with my parents and all that. So it's a lot. And I'm like just over flustered trying to think of like, what have I done in my life? Section 12 is just school. It's usually high school and college. It usually says, date back to the past like 10 years. It's usually high school or college. I have trainees all the time that ask me, it's like, ma'am, if I've only gone to the college for 1 semester, do I still have to put it down? Well, yes, you still have to put it down because you still attended technically. For me, I've attended, I'm on my 2nd college right now. I've gone to one high school. Luckily, I didn't switch around to different high schools every year. If you've gone to a different high school every single year of your high school days, yes, you have to put every single one down. And I know it gets really annoying, but, you know, they got to do it. They got to do your background check and make sure you're, like, good to go and you're A-okay. Section 13 is employment history. So the same rules apply, no relatives and stuff like that. Basically, have you gotten in trouble, any misconduct? Have you gotten fired for some odd reason? Where did you work? And stuff like that. Like I said, I'm 21. I would have to go back to my 18th birthday. No time gaps. If I was never really unemployed ever since I started working when I was younger. So if I did have any unemployment events, then I would just use my parents. I'd use my mom or my dad every time that I was unemployed. And that's what I tell my trainees. Anytime you have unemployment, use your mom or your dad. The reason why is because this is the only section, if you felt the SF86 during BMT, I know for sure. I can't vouch for anything for your recruiter says. Whatever your recruiter says usually goes. But I can vouch for if you come through BMT and you refill this out as a top secret. This is the only time you can use your parents. So use your parents to your advantage, because your parents will know everything about your life, because they're the ones that usually have raised you. Section 13B is just basically saying, Do you have any other federal work service to let me know about that you haven't already told me before? And most of the time, it's usually no for everyone. Section 14, it's just the draft number for the boys, or the selective service number. I know it's also called SSN, which also stands for Social Security number, that most of us know for our socials, but Section 14 is the draft number. Sometimes your recruiters will find it, sometimes you guys will already come into basic and already know it. Sometimes if you join a little bit too early, you may not even have one because you were already joining at that time. You're already in the DEP program, so you already signed up for the military at the program. Section 15 isn't too much of a thing. It only applies to my top secrets who are refilling this thing out during when you go through BMT as a top secret. So I'm not going to really go too much on 15. 16 is people I know well. It has to be at least 3 people, no more, no less. One person has to be known for a minimum of 7 years. My best friend Gabby, who just recently started a YouTube channel as well, which I'll have to link one of her videos sometimes to the description below. She's known me for over 7 years. I'm pretty darn sure. I think. I may have to rethink that. I actually don't know now that I'm questioning myself. But she is definitely absolutely one of the people I would absolutely use, and the people I know well. Not just because I've known her for 7 years, but I know if an investigator for some odd reason calls her and be like, can you verify that she is who she is? Am I who I am? Can I be trustworthy for any government information for some odd reason, even though I've already been serving for almost 2 years now, and just stuff like that. They just want to make sure that the people that we're letting into the military are good people and that we're not criminals or something, or like terrorists or something like that, of course. Section 17 are really for my married personnel only. So if you do have a spouse, please make sure you do have their social, because your spouse may or may not get a background check run on them as well. Section 18 is just immediate family. It's relatives. So for me, it'd be my mom, my dad, my brother, and my sister. I do have like nieces and nephews. I do have my brother-in-law. However, they're not my immediate family. My brother, my sister, my mom, and my dad are my immediate family. This also includes any step-siblings, any half-siblings, step-parents, guardians, if your parents cannot take care of you, or if you didn't know them, or if they're deceased or something. Or if you are married, your mother and father-in-law must be in there as well. Section 18 is probably one of the hardest ones, just because everyone's family is so different. Everyone has grown up so different. I had a girl who her grandparents had legally adopted her, so her biological mom became legally her sister, her biological uncle became legally her brother, and it was just a complete mess, and it was very hard to figure out what the family tree was going on. But we worked through it, we got it done, and she's off in tech school now, probably having the time of her life, learning whatever her job was. I don't remember. If you have stuff like that, it's very hard to think about, because you're like, oh man, my dad left me when I was young, and you're like, I never knew him, we don't know anything about him, we have no contact with him right now. Well, that's different. If you have something like that, that's of course completely different. Maybe if your mom or father is in prison, then you would just put the prison down and the cell phone number for the prison, because they're in prison, they're in jail. It's not your fault. It's stuff that happens. Families are also different. Families are raised also different. And everyone's family is so different. For some odd reason, every time I see a new week group, I see new 4th weekers for the first time in my computer lab. A lot of them always tell me, like, oh, do we have to put step-siblings or, like, half-siblings down? I was like, well, of course you do. Like, they're technically related to you in a way. And they're like, I just found out about them, like, 2 weeks before I came to basic. Like, I don't know anything about them. I don't know their names. I don't know this. I don't know that. I just know they exist. And I'm like, well, now that you know they exist, you gotta put them down, because I need to know if these people are like actual people, because the government will have to run background checks on people, and just basically make sure you and your entire family are okay people. For section 18, it's usually legal names, place of birth, date of birth, citizenship of what kind of country. Most of the time everyone's a US citizen. or if they use any other names, so like marriage names, legal names, maiden names for mom, or maybe sisters or something, or adoptions. If they are deceased, if they are not deceased, you must find their current address. However, if they are deceased, if they are deceased, then you don't have to worry about putting their current address. You also have to put down any guardians as well. Unfortunately, I met a trainee whose parents were both deceased, and he had a guardian and I think a little brother or something. And so when my job has to deal with really hard cases like that, I had to just kind of slow it down and be like, okay, so do you know any of this information? Do you know any of that information? Of course, I always tell you guys, I tell my trainees at least, I tell them, I was like, if you don't want to disclose any information to me about like what happened to your mom or happened to your dad or your sister or your brother, I have no problem with that. That is your life. I do not need to disclose. I just want to know one little thing, like, do you know where they are right now? Do you know their current address? Can you get a hold of them if we need to for some odd reason? And that's when we go farther with our information, and I just talk to them about it. And like I said, guys, I work with the BMT trainees. So what I'm telling you right now is how I would deal with it if I was in that situation. Of course, whatever your recruiter says is, when you're in the DEP program, filling out this form for your recruiter, whatever they says will go. If you happen to be top secret and you happen to come to BMT and you happen to meet me or something, this is how I'm going to give out my examples, how I'm going to let you guys know this is what I need you to do. I need you to follow my binder to a T, because if you don't follow the binder to a T, you're going to mess up, and if you mess up, I'm going to be a little bit upset with you guys. So that's sections 1 to 18. If you guys are still watching, proud of you. If you're not, I don't blame you. This is a lot of information. On top of this, you have sections 19 to 29, and like I said, you have questions inside of questions, which is even more fun. Sections 19 to 29 are yes and no questions. So my main ones I'll hit on is, because I don't remember all of them to be perfectly honest. 19 is foreign contacts. 20C is traveling outside of the U.S. within the past 7 years. 21 is usually about mental health or psychological health or something like that. 22 is about police record. 23 is to include any illegal drugs used within the past 7 years, to include marijuana or anything like that. 26 is usually financial issues. 29 is terrorism. Those are the big numbers that I always hit on, because most of the time, not including 29, but most of the time, like, yeah, I traveled to Cancun with my parents and then the past 7 years. Okay, cool, just tell me about it. Did you go for tourism? Did you go for how many days? Like, just stuff like that. And when you look at your packet, like I said, everything is self-explanatory. If you have any questions, you can always ask your recruiter. That's what your recruiter is there for, to help you out and to get you in. So when I had to think about these sections, I was like, well, I did serve in an overseas, and I did meet some Koreans. However, do I have any foreign contacts? Well, personally for me, I talked to a few of the Koreans, but did I make friends with any of them? No, not really. I didn't. So I didn't have to worry about that, luckily. 20C asked 2 questions. If I've traveled outside of the U.S. in the past 7 years. No, I haven't, because mine was over 7 years ago when I went to Cancun with my parents when I was younger. But yes, I have traveled outside of the U.S. in the past 7 years, solely for government purposes, to include PCSing, TDYs, or anything like that. I did PCS to Korea, which I would say yes to. And if it had more questions inside that questions, I would just answer further. 23 is usually a big one. It's usually for marijuana use, how many times you've used it, why, little stuff like that. That's really it, guys. I mean, this is so much information, and most of the time that I'm going to tell you all this stuff, I usually will tell it in the perspective if I was briefing my trainees during BMT. If I was briefing them, I'd be like, this is what you need to do, this is what, blah, blah, this, blah, blah, that. If we need to call CQ, if we need to do this, if we need to use the latrine, this is the rules, this is the ground sets. Get our work done, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to mess around. We're not here to chitter chatter. We're here to get our work done because you guys need this for your job. Top secrets absolutely need this, like, no matter what. They need to fill this out for me. But of course, if you do go top secret, then it kind of goes into further if you're T5 open, upgrade, or normal, and that's just so much more than most of you guys honestly would probably even want to even listen to me about. But that's what an SF86 is. That's all the main points that I really want to hit on. So if you guys have any questions about anything like that, if you'd like to comment, if you'd like to subscribe, follow me on social media. I usually respond faster to social media than I do on my YouTube. If you guys have any video ideas, I'm absolutely open to recording anything you guys want me to talk about. Even if it's a Q&A video, just ask me a bunch of questions. I'll make a video, something out of it. I'll figure it out. Other than that, I just want to thank all of you guys for everything, and I hope you have a nice day, and thank you for sticking around through this super long video. So I'll see you guys later. Bye!